Hi, guys.
Hey, how are you, Elizabeth?
I'm
hello,
fine.
Elizabeth.
Hello.
Finally, you can take a seat.
Yeah. This is my first digital experience feeling short, so that's a little bit rough because I'm medium actually by almost all standards.
Yeah, but you're in Holland. Standards don't apply there.
Yeah.
I am short. She's tall.
There we go.
Just tilt the lens and you'll be tall just like that, right? Just
there you
do
go.
that. There you go. So
Yeah. Okay, so I'm excited about this section. Also because I know we're getting some US. Oh, hello. Hi, Duncan. Hi. We're getting some of our US participants coming in now. It's morning everywhere there. So we're going to talk. I think what we're going to start with is just a brief introduction of everybody. Do you want to just say, we were talking about 3 sentences, but I think maybe that's unfair. If you can give a little background about yourself quickly. Maybe Duncan, I'll let you start. Is that fair?
I don't know whether that's fair, but I'll kick off then. So I'm Duncan. I'm the Chief Technology Officer of Building Minds. So, you've probably heard I'm a Brit. So I'm stranded over here at the moment. Tricky time. So Building Minds is a real estate asset management company. We're creating a data platform for asset performance management. It's a corporate startup, and we have a very, very strong Microsoft partnership, and we're backed by Schindler. So if you like, they're our main funding.
Wonderful. Nice. Yeah. Remo, do you want to go
thanks.
next?
Yeah, Remo, perfect pronunciation. Thanks so much, Elizabeth. Yeah, so I'm based out of just west of Toronto, Canada. Our head office of Thoughtwire is located in the downtown core, a great part of the city. Thoughtwire has been around for about 11 years. I joined them just over 2 years ago, actually 2.5 years ago. Had a lot of different experiences, but one of the appeals that brought me to Thoughtwire is obviously this panel discussion in terms of what we're going to talk about. And I had previous experience at a very large international general contractor. So I actually had construction experience prior to going into the digital space here and a forward-thinking construction company looking at how to digitize construction. I took that knowledge and brought it over to here as we continue to grow our business and find, I always say a smart building starts with building smart. And so maybe that'll be part of the discussion today, but it was a nice tie-in to come and join Thoughtwire and share a message and push the industry forward. And obviously part of this agenda of today's call will do that. So look forward to the discussion. Thanks for having me.
Nice. All right. Gilles.
Yeah, Gilles, fine. It's the French pronunciation. So, hi, my name is Gilles. I've been with Spacewell for 7 years. Spacewell is a listed company, $500 million in revenue. We're part actually of a larger group, the Heinecke Group, which is a consortium of 16 software and proptech companies creating software solutions for buildings in the design phase, in the construction phase, and in the managed phase of its life cycle. And Spacewell at its core is responsible for all solutions provided within the management of buildings. I hold a master's degree in engineering and one in intelligent electronics, and I love to combine the approach of the business with the pragmatic approach of applying technologies for intelligent buildings. And so I love to bring these two to the table and combine both. That's why I've been part of this company for many years, because I believe in finally a change in the real estate market.
Nice, love that. And we have one last that joined up, Robert.
Yes, sorry for the technical issues. Yeah, so I'm Robert Heinecke. I'm one of the founders and the CEO of Gyssaert Technologies. Basically, originally I had a background in computer science, actually, but I traveled around a bit. I experienced what smog really means, what really bad air pollution means, and that made me go into the field of air quality. And nowadays we are focusing on developing and integrating air quality sensors both for indoors and outdoors, and applying artificial intelligence to figure out the best cleaner actions for building management, for instance. And besides that, I'm involved in a couple of other roles, but really I'm looking forward to the discussion here, as I think that intelligent buildings are key to being in a healthy environment.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I really don't feel like I need to lead this discussion at all. You guys are all powerhouses in this. Let's just go off of what Remo was talking about and talk about the idea of, is a smart building the end result? Is that the answer? Does anybody want to jump? Yeah, go for it.
Well, here's the challenge we all face. So what is that definition of a smart building, right? So one of the things that we talk about, in fact, I was hosting a webinar yesterday, we had the same topic come up, is what are these definitions? Are they uniform yet? And I think one of the things that collectively this group, the industry itself, needs to start setting some standards as to what are those definitions. And obviously that plays into the work you're doing. I'm very excited to learn more post this call, Elizabeth, on exactly that type of certification. But what we feel is the next evolution is terms like, another term is a digital twin. And a digital twin of the building is something that we bring to the marketplace. And it's not a bin in a sense. It doesn't end there. It starts there, and that's about bringing the data together to drive meaningful outcomes. So there's a quote from a Canadian author. He resides in the U.S. His name is Malcolm Gladwell. Wrote the book Tipping Point. And he writes in another book, he says, we have an abundance of knowledge, but we lack understanding. Now, that was in the context of the human mind, but I believe that's in the context of smart buildings. We have a better understanding of how everything is coming together as an ecosystem. And that's not just devices, that's you and I interacting with the space.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So smart building is not the end goal of real estate. It's the first step, really. And like you said, Remo, it's a digital twin is nothing without a smart building, but a smart building is only just a part of a digital twin. So being able to have the digital representation of a real model, have it kept up to date in real time, starting from the as-built from day one, so it doesn't go down in replica of the real asset, is what makes a digital twin. But even a digital twin isn't necessarily the end of. I mean, having a digital twin is not the end goal. Even that is just part of making the building life cycle a complete circle, because with that information, we will start to be able to parametrically design better buildings toward the future. Now we are only very at the beginning of what future of real estate means, and it starts with the model to which you apply data and make it a smart building, to which you then create models that define how buildings should behave, and it's with that information that we can then complete the circle by creating and redoing better developments parametrically.
I completely agree, and I think it reminds me a bit of when the iPhone came out. You know, back then everybody said, "Oh, it's a great new phone. It's really fancy. It looks really shiny," but nobody back then imagined all the app world and all the use cases that we use our phones for nowadays. And I think it's going to be the same with smart buildings. We cannot imagine as of now the use cases that we will be able to fulfill with our buildings in the future, based on this smartness and based on this integratedness of the environment. And for that, we are really just laying the groundworks now.
Yeah, no, I love those ideas. I mean, I think, thinking about it, it's all components, the digital twin, smart building, that's, if you like, the IoT, bringing in the data into the digital world, right? That's bringing the physical closer to the digital. But ultimately, we want to create both actionable and meaningful outcomes. And with that, we want to make those available also, ultimately to the owners and the real stakeholders around the building. And that's not necessarily the person immediately interacting with the building at that moment in time. And one of the things that, we've certainly seen is, in order to do that, make that available, you have to have some commonality across the objects, across the building, a common language, have a common data structures in order to do that. So, you've got the digital twin also, and one thing we think about often is you've got, multiple digital twins, a portfolio of digital twins, right? Because if you think of an asset manager or an owner, he's got a huge portfolio, not just one building. And to derive benefits from that, you need to do two things, right? You need to get all of the data together in some kind of a unified format. And that's a huge job. You need to have a common target, a common data format for that to go into. And you need a second component, and that is you need to then be able to surface it in a way that an ecosystem can drive off it, that you can create applications of it, you can create insights of it, because otherwise you'll never really surface the value. So, and that's one of the issues. And if you look at the industry today, it's not there. It starts in the physical, the number of different, I don't know, just looking at the, you've got BACnet, you've got IPC UA, just the physical level, then you've got the digital level, then you go into the standards, the GIF, the real estate standards, when you're looking at facility management, and you've got asset management. It's just a sammelsurium of different standards, and that's a real inhibitor of, being able to then drive the performance ultimately of, real estate, if you're looking at that. So I think that's it. The smart building is an important component, and it's certainly not the end. And all of these are really key parts of creating that bigger picture.
Yeah. So you guys all touched a little bit on this, and one thing I'd like to really have all of your insights on are looking at the user experience. So we've all talked about a smart building, and the reason that buildings exist, sometimes we forget, is for us, right? And yet we're sometimes trapped in these buildings that are not so healthy or not functioning well for us, or that kind of thing. So I want to talk about user-centered design a little bit, but maybe kind of putting that out generally. How do you feel this is going so far? Are buildings designed for people to start with? Are they, are we doing a good enough job to have that feedback, Duncan, like you were talking about, actually go to people who are walking around in the building? Do I feel secure when I'm in a safe building, or do I have no idea if I'm in a safe building? Does anybody want to jump in from the get-go on that?
Yeah, I'll lead that discussion off because it's quite timely, considering we're working on projects and partnerships on getting people back to the office, right? Safe return to work. Every company's got a different slant to how they describe it, but fundamentally, what has changed is in our world, and perhaps the panel is as well, is the idea of comfort. So functionality-wise, we have capabilities to tie into the base building, and Duncan, alluded to different protocols to which you have to do that. But now comfort's about, well, if I'm being asked, or if I'm at a point where I want to return to work, how am I navigating that space? How am I navigating that space so I'm not breaking density protocols, right? Proximity protocols. How am I doing it so it's contactlessness? Can we do a form of contact tracing that isn't, it doesn't allow it to be named, but rather anonymized. So this is the functionality we are putting together to allow individuals to return back to work. But it doesn't answer your question on the generic standpoint. And for that, I want to touch up on things that Duncan and Robert had said. And what's most interesting is, Robert, you said a moment ago, so I have to write things down, I can't imagine all the use cases that might come out of this, right? And I think one of the things we have to do as an industry is not let all the potential use cases bog down a project, but focus on something that Duncan talked about, which I've heard and seen kind of the evolution of specifications, use the word digital enablement. So emphasize like the warranty, like the fit for the purpose of the building, then the use is going to change. Because I can be honest with the panel here, in January 2020, I wasn't talking about safe return to work, but now we are. So things are going to change. The use of the building is going to change. And as a result, as long as you have the core, the flexibility that allows you to make those changes, those future use cases can be served.
Yeah, and I can react easily on what you said. It's the answer to the initial question, right? Can we make user-centric designs? is both yes and no. And in the end, we are the product of our own designs, and that even applies to the human body. Yeah, if we create a child, we give it birth. You can design, mold it a lot in the beginning. You can teach it all the tricks you want, but at some point it lives its own life. And yes, you can still add a wing to a building, just like you can give a person a nose job, but the basic designs is what it has been created for. And then there are certain buildings that are easily interchangeable, like residential and office buildings. Sure, they're interchangeable, but don't expect a stadium to become easily be transformed into a hospital, for example. So there are certain extents to which a building can be designed to become anything you want it to be. And that's why I think that circular design becomes very important. That's what we are seeing also more and more with our current projects being in these three domains as a group, is that we are starting to look at the use cases of buildings being constructed even before we draw the first line on the blueprint. And so we try to experience and try to design experiences even before we know what the building is going to be used for, bringing in the maintenance costs, planning, user experience, and use that. So actually backwards, try to figure out what is the best, not the best in the world, but the best for that specific case. What is the best choice for technical assets or for structural decisions for what this building can or will be used for. And that's, I think, the closest you can get to user-centric design.
I think a big part of it is also just creating transparency for the users, because, I mean, from what I've seen, a lot of the discussion in the past has been talking about smart buildings, just providing dashboards and data to, let's say, the facility management or the building operations, but we haven't so much focused on the actual users of the spaces so far. And I think that's critical, especially now also with this back to work movement. If you want the people to feel safe in the spaces they are assigned to as an office, then you need to tell them, okay, how safe is it? How clean is the air? Or how dense are actually the people sitting together? And how many people are actually in the building? And what does the situation look like? And for that, communicating the right data in the right ways is really key.
Yeah. And do you think we're past the point of no return in terms of feedback and being having information out for the people in buildings, or are we all going back after the vaccine to the old ways?
I mean, I would hope that we are past the point of no return, but I see that we're still not doing enough. So I don't know if we actually have really embarked on this trip. So we just started, actually, from my experience, we just started now the discussions with all the large companies about providing data to the users of the spaces and setting up the first pilots. And then hopefully this is going to go live on scale in Q4 this year or Q1 next year. And I think that talking about these timelines, especially also in the building sector, it's still a long road to go, really, to be realistically be talking about large scale deployments.
Yeah, no, fully agree. And I think, you said transparency, and I think that's a key, right, in much of this, because I think I think, Gilles, if you're thinking of when the buildings are being created, from construction, I'm thinking very much in the operation part really as a focus, because the majority of buildings already exist, and what I think is that you need the information to be able to act on it. And the moment it's not transparent and available to everyone in that chain. So even if the user had the information, it also needs to be made available to those who actually need to make the invest, right? And it also needs to be transparent to that person that something needs to happen. So I think if you look at the current situation, we'll see multiple transformations. It's not going to be one, it's going to be an ongoing transformation. And those companies which react quickly enough and have that realize that we're now in a phase where we're underpopulating our office space. But then as more people come back, you have to have creative ways of reusing that space for, maybe smaller areas for people to go in and talk rather than these big, open offices. You have to use the space differently, and you need that information to be fed back. And one of the points is most buildings are not digital today. So how can we make somehow the insights also relevant for the other buildings? If we're not talking IoT, we're not talking smart building. And that's one of the points where, if you're looking at portfolio and in the operations level, where you have a majority of the buildings are today, that's an important point. So if you can put them on a similar level, if you can gather the data that you have and make comparisons between those buildings, you can extrapolate. Then, of course, you've got a completely different lever to act with. And that actually goes for many of the use cases when you're talking about fit for purpose, and how can you actually react and design your real estate in a completely different way and maximize that, really.
Wow. All right, I'm getting the wave that we're done, but I just want to end this saying, I think you guys should make as many buildings as possible, because I love your vision for putting together integrated design, user-centered, on a path of constant optimization. So keep up the good work, guys. And thank you so much.
You too, Elizabeth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.